Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 49ers Golden Ticket. My name is Gabriel, and today we're going to talk about the offseason drama surrounding the 49ers. We're going to look at their offense, defense, and of course their special teams. And then we're going to look ahead to week one against the Chicago Bears, where the wait is over. We finally get to see Trey Lance. So let's kick it off with Trey Lance, who is, by all accounts, this year's starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, of course, there's going to be fans and media who are clamoring for Jimmy Garoppolo to take back over that starting role, but the 49ers did give up 3 first-round picks and a third-round pick in last year's draft to move up to the number 3 spot and select Trey Lance. Now, most teams wouldn't give that draft capital up to select just any quarterback. It would normally be the first quarterback in that draft. However, in this particular draft, Trey Lance was the third quarterback taken, and therefore it wowed a lot of people knowing that they were going to take the third quarterback, but still gave up that much draft capital. So already there's doubt surrounding Trey Lance because the Niners, frankly, gave up too much, according to some. Now, Trey Lance is also a very raw prospect. He's only thrown about 370, I want to say, 312 maybe. Just over 300 passes in college, and he's only had a handful of passes during preseason and regular season in the NFL. So to say that he might not be ready could very well be true. But we are going to see what he does in week one against Chicago Bears and Justin Fields, who Justin Fields was also in the conversation for number 3. It's going to be a juicy week one matchup. Now, I mocked Trey Lance to the 49ers. When they made that trade, a lot of people expected it to be Mac Jones because he was the more now-ready quarterback. But in my opinion, Trey Lance was the better talent. And therefore, I thought he would be the pick. And turns out he was. So I believe in Trey Lance. A lot of people do not. There's been some up and downs in his preseason performances, practice reports that he's inaccurate. However, that's practice. Practice is the time to do just that. Practice. Work on something. You're not always going to be perfect in practice because if you don't try it in practice, you won't try it in a game. Therefore, you'll never know if you can get better at that. Practice is a place to get better. And I think that there's too many people reading into these practice reports saying, oh, Trey Lance can't do it. Well, we're going to find out in week one. Steve Young seems to think he can do it. Jerry Rice seems to think he can do it. And those two are Hall of Famers. I'm on their side. Now, speaking of Jimmy Garoppolo, the guy that everybody wants to bench Trey Lance for because Jimmy has led this team to a Super Bowl appearance and 2 NFC championships. That's very impressive. Jimmy is a starting quarterback in the NFL. Unfortunately, he won't be a starter this year. The reason for that is because of Trey Lance and the off-season shoulder surgery that Jimmy Garoppolo opted to have. He did have that surgery without consulting with the 49ers, and therefore that put the kibosh on any trade talks that the 49ers were having on getting rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. By the way, Jimmy is a absolute class act. All the offseason drama surrounding him and Trey Lance and the 49ers and the trade rumors, and he got bashed a lot. You know, a lot of people really went to bat against Garoppolo, picking him apart, the way he throws, the interceptions, etc., etc. And then certain media members did go ahead and try to pick him up by saying, oh, he's a great leader. But you know what? Jimmy Garoppolo didn't say a word this whole time. He stuck to the script. He did his part. And what an amazing human being. And I think we have the best backup quarterback in the NFL. If you think I'm wrong, okay, you have a right to your opinion. But this one's mine. Jimmy Garoppolo is a starting quarterback in the National Football League. And right now, he is the backup quarterback to the San Francisco 49ers. That may change by week 8 as a team gets an injury or gets desperate and decides, hey, we need a starting quarterback. What we have just isn't working. The teams that come to mind, Seattle, Cleveland, potentially even the Texans, although there is a lot of love surrounding Davis Mills. But anyways, that's just, again, my opinion. Those are the two teams mostly Seattle and Cleveland that I think should be interested in Jimmy Garoppolo, because a combination of Drew Lock and Geno Smith isn't going to take the Seahawks to the Super Bowl, and a combination of 11 games from Jacoby Brissett and then hopefully 6 games of rust from Deshaun Watson isn't going to get the Cleveland Browns to the Super Bowl either. So Jimmy Garoppolo should definitely be somebody that those two teams are thinking about. One of the biggest benefits of keeping Jimmy Garoppolo around is to continue to mentor Trey Lance. They did bring in Brian Griese, whose dad is Hall of Famer Bob Griese, the quarterback of that 72 undefeated Dolphins team. However, Trey Lance can always use more coaching. He's a very young, raw prospect, and Jimmy Garoppolo gets to provide some of that stability for him. He was there with him last year, and he's going to be there with him this year. Jimmy Garoppolo, as mentioned, is a class act, and I hope that some of those good features will continue to rub off on Trey Lance, as he himself seems like a great, bright young man. I have not met him, so I can't speak fully to it, but in all the interviews that I've seen, he's very charming, very bright, and very intelligent. Wow. Deebo Samuel was another distraction in this offseason. Early in the offseason, he removed all recognition of the 49ers. He took them off of all social media pages, and there was just no mention of San Francisco 49ers. And then he wanted his pay, he wanted to get paid. He wanted his pay raise. And the Niners kept telling him, be patient, it'll come. And if you look at the past on other San Francisco 49ers signing, you'll see people like George Kittle signed right before camp, Fred Warner signed right before camp. And sure enough, Deebo Samuel was signed right before camp. Not before, however, he requested a trade from the San Francisco 49ers. There were also tons of rumors saying that he didn't want to be a wide back anymore, which is a self-proclaimed title, actually, one that he gave himself at the Pro Bowl, and that he didn't want carries. He has since went on to do interviews claiming that the not wanting to run the ball anymore and being a wide back was false. He actually takes great pride in that, but he just wanted his money and found out the hard way that he had to be patient. He has no ill will towards the 49ers, but I am curious to see if the 49ers fans have any ill will towards him, considering he told them he didn't want to be here. That's just... Now kicking it over to the 49ers offense, defense, and special teams. We're going to first take a look at the offense, where I'm going to start with possibly the best group of pass catchers in the NFL. The San Francisco 49ers do have Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Juan Jennings, Ray McLeod, and third-round pick speedster Danny Gray. That is potentially the most dangerous wide receiver core in the NFL. I do think that the Bengals and the Rams do have an argument. There might be a couple of other teams. The Arizona Cardinals have a great set of pass catchers as well. But for the 49ers, those wideouts are exactly what they need. They fit this team very well, and I expect big things out of them. That's a great starting point for Trey Lance. But that's not it. You still have possibly the best tight end in the NFL in George Kittle. You have the best fullback in the NFL in Kyle Juszczyk. You have a strong stable of running backs that the Niners have invested in heavily. And then you also have the best left tackle, the first left tackle rated 99 in Madden, the first O-lineman, in fact, rated 99 in Madden ever, in Trent Williams. But unfortunately, Trent Williams can't spell it all for the 49ers on offensive line. There is definitely some big question marks along that front at left guard, center, and right guard. Now, left guard is second round pick out of last year, out of Notre Dame, Aaron Banks. Now, he didn't start last year. He basically had a redshirt freshman year like Trey Lance, sat the bench, and just learned as much as he could. So the truth is we don't know a whole lot about him, and out of practice, it sounds like he hasn't been performing well. At center, we're going to be starting Jake Brendel, who is 30 years old and has not started a game in the NFL. That is very concerning. By the time you're 30 and you haven't started a game, that means you weren't good enough before. Why are you suddenly good enough now? Big question mark at center. And then at right guard, they have Spencer Burford. who is a rookie draft pick this year and definitely looks promising. But considering he's a rookie, there will definitely be growing pains there, which means a lot of pressure is going to be put on Trey Lance. And I don't mean just outside pressure, I'm talking inside pressure. Right through the A and B gap there in the middle of the offensive line, where there's going to be blitzing linebackers. I'm sure they're going to stack some DNs inside just to try to take advantage of the 49ers guards and put as much pressure as they can on Trey Lance because he's a young quarterback and they're hoping that they can get him to make some mistakes. So that weakness on the 49ers offensive line could very well be detrimental. I'm not looking forward to that. Carrying over into the 49ers defense, where we have potentially the defensive player of the year in Nick Bosa. That defensive line is absolutely stacked, and the Niners yet again invested more draft capital into this line. And guess what? They got Drake Jackson, who feels like a steal at 61. Drake Jackson looks to be, in my opinion, a first-round pick. He's got all the bend and size and strength and athleticism you want from the edge position. The 49ers look forward to developing him. He seems maybe a little bit raw, but all the talent is there. And to line him up opposite of Nick Bosa is going to be very, very scary for opposing offenses to deal with. And then welcome back Javon Kinlaw. We've been waiting a long time to see him. In fact, is the hype already gone? Has he already let fans down? His third year in the NFL, and we finally get to see what he's made of. So let's hope for the best. Javon Kinlaw, best of luck out there, man. You're going to be really important to this team. Right next to Eric Armstead, who should be a Pro Bowler in his own right. Eric Armstead does so much for that defensive line. Move him inside, move him outside. He is solid no matter where you put him. That defensive line is going to wreak havoc on the whole NFL, and I'm not sure people are ready for it. However, as good as that defensive line is, our linebacker core might be better, led by Fred Warner, Azeez Al-Shaair, Dre Greenlaw. Those are the best linebackers in the NFL as far as a trio. So if you want to get the best linebacking unit, look in San Francisco. That's where other teams are trying to pull undrafted free agents from. We are able to develop linebackers very, very well. But it doesn't stop there. The Niners did more for this defense. They really, really, really went all in this year. They signed Charvarius Ward, who by all accounts seems like a shut-down man-to-man corner there on the outside to play opposite Mosley. They brought back Jason Verrett, who was a starter for us in previous seasons and was an absolute shutdown corner when he was healthy, which unfortunately is not very often. But that secondary, those corners of the 49ers should be very solid. Rookie Samuel Womack in the slot seems like a steal. We got him in the 5th round this year out of Toledo. Nobody had really heard of him because Toledo's a pretty small school. But as of right now, he is playing lights out and looks like he's going to make a lot of plays for this secondary. Now, what the 49ers did wrong, they did not invest in the safety position. In fact, I feel like they might have even gotten worse at the position. They let Jaquiski Tartt go. He went to the Eagles and then got released by the Eagles, currently a free agent. Why haven't we brought him back? And then Jimmy Ward is injured, and he appears to be injured for a minimum of the first 4 games. So our starting safeties are going to be Talanoa Hufanga, last year's 5th round pick, and then George Odom, a special teams ace that came over to us from the Colts. So those are our starting safeties. I'm a little worried. Just because I'm worried about George Odom on on defense, doesn't mean I'm worried about him on special teams. That's the whole reason he's here. We brought over Ray McLeod, George Odom, and Oren Burks, to all special teams aces for their previous team. We brought them all over in free agency to boost one of the NFL's worst special teams units. However, we also brought in a new special teams coach, Brian Schneider, who was the special teams coordinator for the Seahawks the past, I want to say 10 years. And over that time, he ranks first in takeaways, second in blocked kicks, and fifth in touchdowns, which is not too shabby. A huge improvement there on the coaching side for special teams, a huge upgrade there from the signings on special teams. I look at that unit as being one of the better units in the NFL, and the 49ers, low-key, did an amazing job upgrading that unit, creating a complete football team in all three phases: offense, defense, and special teams. The 49ers are stacked, guys. They are stacked. And that takes us into our week 1 matchup against the Chicago Bears in the Windy City of Chicago. This will somewhat be a coming out party for Trey Lance. Although he did make 2 starts last year, he was what some might call swimming, still learning how to play the speed of the NFL, still learning his offense, etc., etc. However, this year he's had a full offseason. He knows the playbook, and there's not many excuses left. It's time for Trey Lance to shine against the guy who thinks that he should have been drafted here instead of Trey Lance, Justin Fields. Justin Fields ended up going, I believe, number 11 overall to Chicago, but many felt like Justin Fields should have been the 49ers pick. He's an athletic specimen, very accurate deep ball thrower. Justin Fields last year against the 49ers rushed for 100 yards against us from the quarterback position. That just goes to tell you the kind of athleticism he has, but yet he did not do enough to beat the 49ers. It was 22-33. Jimmy Garoppolo, however, was the quarterback at that time. The 49ers entered this game as 7-point favorites in the Windy City, which maybe it should be more, in my opinion. It's going to be rainy. The Niners will have one of the top run games in the NFL, and I'm just not so sure that A, the Bears can stop our run game, and B, the Bears' O-line can stop Nick Bosa. The Bears have injuries along their offensive line, and Nick Bosa is going to wreak havoc in the backfield of the Chicago Bears. Historically, the 49ers have been a slow starting team, but they're also known as road warriors. So I think that those two things will somewhat even themselves out, and we'll see ourselves with a big victory against the Chicago Bears. The Bears special teams versus the 49ers special teams. I had to add this in there just because of how much the 49ers did to go upgrade their special teams this year. And then what's even funnier about this matchup is the special teams coordinators for the Bears is actually the old 49ers coordinator who had the 49ers special teams ranking near the bottom of the NFL. I very much expect the 49ers special teams to win a couple games for us this year, and who knows, this might be one of those games. That's going to wrap it up for us here at the 49ers Golden Ticket. I had a blast talking with you guys today. I look forward to seeing you next week, and good luck, 49ers, on your Week 1 matchup.